Oh,
I didn't get an invitation to get in, so I went to Zoom to try to get in, and I got frustrated.
the links are always in the email that you get, but
Yes.
you can always email me if there's a problem. I'll usually be around.
So there wasn't that connection, that invitation wasn't there, and I said, well, maybe I have to get to Zoom, and I complicated things. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
But it was a good learning experience because I was really angry, so I had to go center myself.
To drink some tea and
well, I didn't do that. But I did do some breathing and
good.
try to center my feet and stuff. So it was although I was upset, it was a good learning experience. So it was a good experience to be able to get out of myself.
Did it work?
Yes.
Good.
Because usually when I get angry with myself, it lasts a long time, and I was able to diffuse it more. So that was good.
That's really my experience. Like we're gonna get triggered. We'll get angry. We'll get upset. We'll get anxious. We'll get fearful. Those variables are going to happen. It's more that we just don't stay stuck like a skipping record.
Yeah.
And when I do the practices, sometimes it helps me 20%. Sometimes it helps me 100%.
Yeah.
But there's not a time that it doesn't help.
Yeah.
So it's
and
great.
that other message you sent this week about doing it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like just a quick breathe or a quick feet on the floor.
Yeah.
Just that moment to see if you can get out of it. Although I had more of a chance to, because I was standing in the kitchen having lunch or getting lunch ready. I, didn't go sit down to do this. I did it right at the moment, right there. And
perfect.
so that, as I said, it was a good practice for me because
perfect.
Yeah.
That's where we get our mileage is in those life events rather than just on the cushion.
Yeah. And that's been my MO, my modus operandi most of my life is I let my emotions go. And although I don't necessarily lash out, but inside, then I just get really angry and upset, and I could be upset for a day or two. And although I've taken psychology and stuff at university and everything else, I know logically what answers are. I just just get lazy and don't do it. And so
it's an interesting.
And I'm a Scorpio, although I don't necessarily believe in astrology, but I am a Scorpio, and I lash out, but mostly I lash out at myself.
Yeah.
And when I'm angry, the angers that I've had in my life has been mostly anger at myself.
It's an interesting thing in that it's hard to use the mind to fix the mind.
Mm-hmm.
When our emotions, it's hard to use our mental body, our mind, to fix our emotional experience.
Yeah.
It doesn't work so well, but somehow, miraculously, when we slow down and come into the physical body, it calms down the emotional body, the mental body. And that's really the essence of this practice. It's like, okay, let me just come back to myself. Let me just feel what's here in my body. And then it gets easier to do other things.
Yeah. And I'm a perfectionist. And when the perfectionist in a negative way, when I don't do things perfectly or well,
you beat yourself up.
Yes, exactly right. That's one of my main defeatist attitudes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really hard on myself.
Okay. Let's actually unpack that a little bit. Will you give me just 1 second? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Thought I left something open that needed to be closed.
Yeah. I made not to be negative, I made a list of the dragons that I fight.
Perfect.
And they're there's only about 10 of them, but some of them are. I just made I just brainstormed things that
come up for you.
Yeah, I was going to go to some French words here. Too many languages.
You can use French. That's okay.
So I just brainstormed. So what does it that drags me? And I made a list of some, and I know more. The bigger triggers, of course, in that list. It's not what is it? It's not necessarily in order, but it's the ones that I thought of first. I don't know if that's helpful.
Well, let's step back one step, and when we start to look at our list of triggers, our list of dragons, the things that haunt us, one of the things is we want to deconstruct the entirety of the picture. And what ends up happening with most of us, and you'll see this in yourself probably pretty easily, is that there is the superficial reaction of anger or fear or whatever it is that comes up. And usually the most superficial is anger, some degree of frustration or lashing out internally or lashing out externally, but it's still anger. It's just where it's directed. Underneath that will be something that makes us feel uncomfortable. So we're angry because we're uncomfortable, right? The anger is a reaction to the feeling uncomfortable. And the thing that we're feeling uncomfortable with is something that makes us usually feel vulnerable or unsafe or less than or bad, or like we can put different language to it.
Inferior, not necessarily inferior because superior, but inferior, lesser.
Yeah, exactly.
Lesser. Yeah, sorry.
And so what we want to do is to use each of those triggers to point us towards that actual core part, because that core feeling of inferior, whatever that happens to be for yourself or for myself, is the part that we want to get comfortable with. Yes. Because if we can get comfortable with that, then all the other superficial reactions will begin to disappear because they're just branches off of this root.
Yeah.
So for me, I put a big emphasis on that sort of peeling off the layers of the onion to get to the core of it, more than I worry about however many things that haunt us. I look for the theme that they all represent. And that might be, say in this case, perfectionism, right? So you feel like, okay, I need to be perfect. When you're not perfect, you get angry. But if you're not perfect, what does it mean? Yeah. Why is that bad? And that's the underneath part is what we want to go into rather than this above. We want to go below that. And that's, for me, that's where what often happens is the thing that is underneath is emotionally really intense for us. That's why we have the reaction. If it wasn't intense, we wouldn't react, right? That's not a hard thing to follow. We know that if something's intense, we react more. If it's less intense, we react less.
Yes.
And so it can be difficult to settle down into that space because it's very charged. And that is 100% the purpose of drinking the tea and doing that meditation, so that it gets easier and easier to settle into that space that's under the surface.
Yeah. As I told you before, we do yoga. We're gonna pick up again for September. We had a bit of a hiatus this summer. I can easily, with the tea, I can easily get into and do, and I feel really good because I can do a little meditation. Although I get sidetracked, but I can come back.
Yeah, perfect.
I can come back, and I'm looking at that as victories that I can come back.
Yeah.
My problem is that, and I know it's not a magic pill. My problem is that it's short-lived. That moment is good and everything. Then all of a sudden, it's the world's problems again. And I know, obviously, the thing that you sent this week about then having the mini things, go back to your breathing, go back to your center, go back, that's going to be very helpful for me, because that's my biggest,
Yeah.
my biggest, not frustration, my biggest demand.
It's interesting.
And last night I had a horrible night trying to go to sleep. I was fighting, like I was really fighting a dragon.
Mhm.
And I tried to center, and I just had so many things in my mind. It took me hours to fall asleep last night, and
Okay.
that's hasn't happened in quite a few weeks.
Okay. If
There
that
was
happens,
extenuating circumstances. We had a nice family get together last night. We had a barbecue and stuff, and we talked about a lot of things, and also ate a lot of things. So it was a little indigestive and stuff. But that being said, I was fighting the
the
emotions.
dragon.
Yeah, and I was getting angry with myself because, I know better. I'm a smart guy, and
Mental body doesn't care.
and I really fought it. So I had a bad night. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. When that happens, you can just get up and have another cup of tea.
Yeah.
And do the meditation. Put the recording in your ears and just do it while you have the cup of tea as a treatment.
Yeah.
Because it's really in those moments when we are triggered, if we can do the practice, then it helps to hardwire it into our system that much better.
Even in the middle of the night.
Absolutely, yeah. It doesn't really matter when the trigger occurs. It's how we confront that dragon that matters. Because our history is that we avoid the dragon. We struggle with the dragon, or we avoid the dragon.
Yes.
But here, what we're trying to do is develop the new road where we subdue that dragon by coming into the body.
Yeah. And then I get, of course, I like beating myself up. Then I say, hey, come on, smarten up. And then I just dig myself deeper. I keep digging my hole.
Yeah. Oh, you're really not alone. Believe me, like I've had this conversation with so many people. Yeah. You're not alone in that process. And I'm guilty of it just as much as you are. It is a human flaw of like if our leg was broken, we wouldn't think walking on our leg would fix the broken leg.
Right.
But somehow we're like, well, let me just walk on it. My thinking pattern isn't working. So let me try thinking my way out of the broken thinking pattern. Yeah. And
it won't. Yeah.
It just usually doesn't work.
You have to put the leg up. You have to rest it. You have to, yes.
Yeah. You have to get a brace. You have to let something else hold the load.
Ice it down or heat it up or massage it. Yes.
Yeah.
But yes.
Have you found the meditation easy to follow?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Like I said, that's not, I don't have trouble with that. Okay. I can meditate. I can do it quite well. I have something that I really enjoy doing with the meditation now is I really love music. I'm pretty eclectic in my musical choices, but for the meditation, I put on some soft classical music.
Wonderful.
And that helps me center. And then I'm saying, well, am I having too many things here? I'm breathing. I have my feet. I have my tea. Then there's the music. Do I have too many things? But it really does. It really calms me down.
Yeah, great. Absolutely include it.
A little quiet Mozart can go a long way.
Yeah, and the idea of 2-point awareness.
And then that's what I say. And then that's exactly I say. It's 2-point. What am I doing with this third point of music?
You can have 3 points, and the idea is that it can really be anything. Yes. In the recorded guided meditation, I don't know all the external variables that each person will have.
Right.
So I chose 2 things within the body.
Yes.
And you always want one of the 2 to be in your physical body. But the second one could be the sound of chirping birds, the sound of the ocean, the sound of a waterfall or a river, some classical music. You just want to always include the physical body and then something else that is not your thoughts.
Yes.
Right? So if it's Mozart and your feet, you're great. If it's Mozart, your breath and the feet, that's also great. What ends up happening is that it's difficult for us to hold all 3 at one time. Yes. But that's okay that it's difficult. That's the whole point.
Yes.
Because the harder it is, the less we can let our thoughts wander off.
And I thought it was maybe too many, but it isn't.
No, it's completely okay.
the music really grounds me.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. How is the tea?
Good.
Right?
I was joking with my daughters because I think you call them docents in the United States, guides,
Yeah.
historical guides.
Hmm.
And I do that. We have a historical site here, a fur trade fort. And as in our costumes and stuff, we drink, we boil tea, and it's not always great. So, well, I was joking, said that this stuff isn't any worse than the stuff we drink at the,
At
at the
work.
historical site. Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's not too bad, right?
yeah, right. No, it isn't. Yeah, it was like I said. I was listen, I'll pretend that we're doing a historical vignette play here, and we're drinking this old tea. It's fine. It's good. Yes.
Good.
And
And
it does help.
do you feel how it affects you?
Yes. I'm not sure if it's a lot more than what I would ordinarily do in a meditation, but
Hmm.
I love having it because I know it's going to ground me a little bit. But it's not it's not magical, or it's not a big step for me, but
Okay.
it does relax me.
Most people seem to find that it has a building impact where, like, when you think of medications,
Yes.
the longer you use them, the less they work,
Okay.
right? They sort of have like a tolerance. This
Yes.
seems to be the opposite, that you can use
Oh,
it less and less and get more and more benefit from it.
okay.
And I think
The
that's
tea itself,
because
you think it builds on itself?
it does,
Oh,
because it's
really?
helping to shift the chemistry of the neural pathways in the
Ah,
brain.
okay.
It works easier and easier. But at first, we're very habituated. We're very locked up
Yes.
patterns, and as those patterns begin to shift, the tea can work better and better because things are beginning to move.
Okay.
Um, and so that would be my way of describing why it does what it does.
So
Um,
even when we're finished the 28-day program or something, the tea is still there to continue, and
exactly.
and we can do it daily too. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, as
absolutely.
often as you want. Yes.
Yeah. What you'll find,
And order some more, I assume.
yeah, absolutely. What you'll find eventually will be that you'll drop into that space easier and easier because it's a muscle, right? You're just
Yes.
developing a new pattern.
Yes. Right.
And for me at this point, I can think of the tea and I can almost feel the tea in my body because I've used it so many times.
Okay.
And that really is the essence of the Chinese approach, or the Taoist approach, is that it's really meant to be training a skill within you so that you don't need these external support mechanisms.
Yes.
But I have the tea over there on my altar. You can see the little bottles back
Oh,
there.
yes. Yeah, I see him there. Yeah.
And I still drink them when I do my practices, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, depending on what's going on, just to kind of keep that pathway open. But I've used them for long enough that I don't feel the need to always go to it. But I like having it there. I like
Okay.
having that ritual.
Yeah. And I'm starting to think about that. And and not to necessarily use the word I should, but I should have my tea, as in I want to have my tea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
Good.
starting to think of it as a friend.
Good.
That's what I'm starting to think of it as. I said,
Good.
hey, this is
Yeah.
good for me, and
This
and
helps me feel better, helps me feel more
yes,
present. Yeah.
yes, right, yeah.
And you found the acupuncture points okay for the oils? That's working out all right?
I haven't used it yet.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and I was looking. I know you sent something of that. What would it be titled as? I haven't read the.
It would have been I think one of the first emails that you got would have contained the images of where the points are located,
Okay.
and all of that. I can resend it to you
Can
if you
you?
can't find it.
It's not a problem.
I just have to go dig it up because it's in an automated sequence,
Okay.
but I can find it.
Okay. And I'm trying to remember what. I knew there were instructions, and I was looking at my emails and trying to locate it. All the other emails that we've had about invitations for this, and so we can trash
the invitations for the video calls.
for these. Yes, for these.
Yes. For
We'll
the
trash all that,
yes.
but we can keep the others about the other
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're meant to be just little bits of inspiration to
Okay.
help you kind of do the practice, and then
And
each one of them.
hang on to.
Yeah, and they all have the guided meditation in there, so that way it's easy reference if you just want to,
Yes.
plug
Yes.
the earplugs in and
Yes.
listen to
And
it.
do it. Yes. Right. Okay.
The trick, you know, as you well know, being an adult, the trick is really just repetition,
Of
right?
course.
And so
Yes.
the emails are ways to facilitate that
Yeah.
practice, because I'm not there to be tapping you on the shoulder, being like, "Hey, Marcel, let's go do some meditation now,"
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's just a way to sort of facilitate that part of the journey.
We have a joke at yoga now, because we're used to, and we know at the end of the practice on that day that we're going to do about 10 or 15 minutes meditation at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes just before we start with our instructor, we'll say something like, you know what, we don't feel like doing all the work. How about we meditate for the hour and a half?
Nap time.
And she laughs and laughs. But yeah,
Right?
she knows.
Yeah.
We'd say sometimes, is it time yet, or can we meditate now? But it's good. Yeah. So we're into that mode a bit. Yeah.
So the next phase I would suggest for you would be to, if you have the list of dragons, right?
Yes.
Think about what the dragons make you feel, right? The sort of tenderness that is underneath, or the vulnerability, or the softness, or the whatever language you want to use to describe it. Identify that theme. See if there's a single theme there. There might be one, there might be two.
I identify the theme or the feeling.
Yeah, whatever that. They may all of the dragons may point to one.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's fairly typical for most of us.
Yeah.
And then what you want to do with the 2-point meditation practice is you feel your feet, you feel the breath, you can listen to the music, and then include a 4th point of awareness, whatever that theme is. Feel that emotion. Feel that.
Really? You go to it.
You go to it.
Okay.
And what you'll find is there's an initial flinch response. And then what we want to do is, if we think of our emotional body like you would a toddler, a young child, is we want to comfort it and say, no, it's okay. We can go into the dark room. It's okay. It's not scary. And we're there for ourselves. We don't leave. We don't back out of it. We just keep inviting that providing that presence in, while we continue to feel our feet on the ground, the breath in our chests, and the lovely Mozart. And what you're trying to do is to develop some comfortableness with something that is intrinsically uncomfortable.
Wow.
And the oils and the herbs and the meditation practice of how it brings you into your body will make that easier and easier. Sometimes when you invite that feeling in, there will be a physical sensation that goes with it. You may feel some constriction in your chest. You may feel some constriction in your stomach. If you can notice that, then let the breath go to that area of your body. So say I start to feel some tension in my chest as I'm sitting with my dragon, right?
Yes.
Then I just want that tension in my chest. I want the breath to go there and keep breathing into that location specifically until that tension changes.
Yikes.
Right?
I don't want to go there.
No, none of us do. But the goal, what you're trying to do
is to fight it.
Well, it's not to fight it. It's to
live with it. No.
You're changing it.
Okay.
So say I've got this pen here, right? And I'm afraid of this pen. And I'm not ready to be like up close and personal with it. It's too intense. So I'm just going to recognize that the pen is over here in the distance and feel what happens in my body. I feel the constriction in my chest that occurs. So then I just label that. Okay, when I think of the pen, I feel my chest constrict.
Yeah.
It's just an observation pattern, right? So then I let go of the pen and I just focus on my body. I focus on that constriction in my chest. And I breathe into the area that's tight until it changes, until the tension goes away.
Even if it takes 24 hours. I don't know.
Even if it doesn't,
No,
it won't.
I'm being flippant. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm trying to put a little humor into it. It's
of course. And
like until it goes away.
Yes, until the tension in your chest changes and you start to feel physically, you start to feel relaxed again. Because when we think of the dragon, we get tense. We go into our anxiety mode. We go into fight, flight, freeze. And so then we put down the thing that is our trigger. We ignore the pen and we come back to our body and we self-regulate, right? We just breathe into the area that gets disrupted until it begins to self-regulate. And then we come back to the pen. And then we do it again. And then we come back to it and we do it again. And eventually what happens is you can get closer and closer to the dragon, closer and closer to the pen. And the amount of dysregulation that occurs in your body will become less and less and less. And you'll develop the capacity to reset whenever you see that dragon.
Okay.
So once you have identified what that dragon is, you just want to touch it enough to feel the reaction in your physical body. Then put it aside and just dive into your physical body and breathe. And listen to some Mozart.
Boy. Yeah.
Right? One way to look at it.
So we're facing our demons.
We are. And we're doing it with the breath. We're bringing the breath into that part of our body that gets constricted. And in the language of Taoism, that constriction is our fear of that dragon. It's a contraction like cold. It freezes us. It locks us up. And the breath represents our connection to heaven, to grace, to divinity. And so in a way, we're bringing the physical presence of God, of grace, into our physical body via the breath to help support us through that contraction. It's like saying a prayer inside of our body in a sense, without any religious...
Did you say to get rid of the contraction? Yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that the
get rid of it or calm it down?
Get rid of it. It will go away.
Okay.
It's an interesting thing because something can't stay contracted if it's moving.
Okay.
Right? So the physical breath moves the chest, creates a pumping action just by the flow of the breath. And all we have to do is give a little mental focus to what part of the chest we want to focus on, or in the abdomen, or wherever we feel it. Most of us, it's either the chest, the solar plexus, or the belly.
Yes.
Right?
The butterflies or whatever.
Yeah. So all we have to do is, okay, I'm triggered. I saw my dragon. Where is the reaction in my physical body? What location? And then once you've done that, now do the 2-point awareness, but instead of just feeling the breath in your chest, feel the breath wherever that physical contraction is.
Yes.
And that's the practice. Over and over and over again.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's no...
I don't want to go there.
Well, it's interesting because there's no mental...
I did my mind, what is it?
The mind mapping?
I'm brainstorming to write it down to get rid of it. I don't want to revisit it.
Well, it's interesting. So you're not revisiting the stories. What we've
Yes.
done in the past is we go down the rabbit hole of the stories.
Yes.
Right now, you're trying to catch the flinch response and stop there.
Okay.
No stories, no indulging the stories.
Okay.
We catch the flinch response and then come to the body.
Yes.
Right? Catch the flinch response, come back to the body and the breath. Catch the flinch response, catch the reaction, come back to the body and breath. We're not indulging the stories and everything that's built up around the thing, but we have to recognize the thing is there if we want to make it go away.
How do we out of, say, the list or the or the cloud, as we say in computer talk, how do we choose one thing to feel uncomfortable about?
Well, if you can
when
look at
when there's so much.
When you look at the list of dragons, they all point to a certain theme.
Okay. Yes.
So that's the thing that you want to go to.
Okay. Yes, you're going
right?
to. Yeah.
And the pattern is pretty consistent between all of us. If I look across like my own experience and most of my clients, is that, say I'm a perfectionist, so I do something imperfectly because it's bound to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I judge myself and I think I'm bad. I think I'm a failure. I think something is wrong. And eventually underneath that is some feeling of being less than or being imperfect that makes me feel like I'm going to die. That if this were to happen, if I were that imperfect, the world would end.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
This is the story that goes on in our head. We're just not conscious of it. But it's like, if this, then I die. If this, the world will end. And we know in our intellectual brain that it's not true. The world is not going to end because I didn't tie my shoes properly. But it feels that way.
Yes.
Right? And so what we want to do is to recognize how intense the reaction of the world is going to end is, and then just bring some breath to that area.
Yeah. Is it hard to identify the theme?
Not usually. Usually if you have a list of those things and you simply ask yourself, what does this make me feel? Why does this irritate me?
Okay.
You'll
They
start to
all
see.
generally make me feel the same way.
Yeah. And they'll make you feel that way because of it means something to you.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is peeling back layers of the onion.
Yeah.
You're just going deeper. Why is this significant? What does it mean to me? If this is true, what would it mean?
Boy,
Right?
that's
a good
self-evaluation.
Right? And it's just, and the interesting thing is it's just requiring you to be honest with yourself about what is already there. You're not making any of this up. These are the thoughts that are in our subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
What does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't tie my shoes properly. It means I'm a complete failure at being an acupuncturist. And obviously there's no relationship between me tying my shoes and being an acupuncturist. But for me, maybe it means that.
Yeah.
Right?
So can anger be a theme? Like all these things make me angry?
Anger is usually a reaction to something we're uncomfortable with. So you can usually go underneath anger.
Find.
Yeah. Why am I angry? Like,
why am I angry?
Yeah, I'm angry. Why am I angry? I'm angry because this isn't right. Why isn't this right? Why is this bad? This is bad because it means I'm a failure.
Okay.
Oh, I don't want to.
The failure is the theme.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Anger is almost always a reaction to hurt, to some sort of pain, whether that's caused by someone else. I say something mean to you, you get angry at me because I hurt your feelings, or what happens to most of us is we say something mean to ourselves and we get angry in response to that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just
okay. Yeah.
see if you can find the theme underneath.
Yeah.
And then try to see where that shows up when you find that theme. Feel where that is in your body and just try to breathe into that space.
Right.
and see
Yes.
how it changes. That's your homework for the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Find that space and breathe into it. And just by breathing into it while you feel your feet on the ground,
Mm-hmm.
see how it changes. And if you start to use the oils, if you say there's like the location where you feel the constriction happens to be in your solar plexus or in your belly, put the oil on all the points that are listed, but also put it in the spot where you feel it too.
Okay.
Right? So you can add one extra spot. If I feel it right here on my shoulder, I'll put it on all the points and I'll put it here on my shoulder too.
Yes.
Right? If it's on my ear, it's a way of giving some attention to that area to help the breath move more smoothly.
Okay.
Yeah. So because you have the skill of doing the practice, now we want to take it deeper.
Yes.
And see where do you constrict in your physical body.
Okay.
When the triggers happen, when the thoughts happen.
That scares me because that throws me under the bus when I go there.
Well, yeah, and the idea is not to go there. The idea is to observe in your physical body what just shifted.
Yeah.
Then put it away. Don't stay there.
Okay.
Right? Don't stay there. Put it away. I look at the pen. I feel the constriction. I put the pen away. Yeah. The pen is no longer part of the equation. The only thing I care about is the constriction.
It's the physical.
Yes.
Okay, so you get rid of the emotion and just go to the chest, go to the stomach.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And then you let the breath flow there until you feel like, okay, I'm good again.
Yeah.
Then we can touch the emotion, then put it aside, come back to the physical.
Okay.
And it's this cycling back and forth where we begin to basically disentangle the thought patterns and emotions from the physical.
Diffuse.
Yeah. You start to break free from it. It's not even just diffusing. It's just like
breaking free. Yes, right.
Yeah. So it's like before. It's yes to the physical and no to the thoughts. As you're building this foundation inside your body.
And we're talking negative thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can do the same with positive. It feel like happy and love and bliss. Oh, yeah. And also see where does that show up and hang out with it just for a positive, uplifting experience.
Yes.
Right? That's also a separate type of practice, which is why people go to church or why they go to a temple or why they go to nature to feel the bliss. And so it's like you could gaze at a beautiful lake or gaze at a beautiful tree, gaze at a picture of Mother Mary or the Buddhist Kuan Yin or whatever and feel that.
That's a meditation in itself.
Exactly. That's the positive side, the cultivating of happiness versus the breaking down of negativeness.
Yeah.
And we want to do both, ultimately. That would be your homework.
Okay.
Is it pretty clear?
Yes, I have it. I'm reticent to do it because that's a dark place for me because that's what I try to avoid. And that's what I was doing last night.
Okay.
And couldn't get out of the rabbit hole.
So just remember, once you've touched it, once you've noticed the rabbit hole, turn away from the thoughts and just go dive into your body. What has shifted in your body? Get to know this container here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. And if you get stuck, reach out, email me.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience for yesterday. And
you're welcome. Not a problem.
I was beating myself up.
Set up for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Could we do Saturday the 14th? Would that work?
Yes. And this time is always good for me. 11
a.m. Okay, let me write that down. 11 Pacific. 9:14. Okay, I will send you an invitation and we'll get that set up and we will touch base then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this. That's good. We'll try it this afternoon.
Great. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah, well, it's this afternoon for me now. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Thank you. Have a good September.
All right. Talk soon. Cheers.
Yeah. Bye.